ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀਓ। ਸੂਹੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾ। ਸਿਮਰਤ ਬੇਦ ਪੁਕਾਰਣ, ਸਿਮਰਤ ਬੇਦ ਪੁਰਾਣ, ਪੁਕਾਰਣ ਪੋਥੀਆਂ। ਨਾਮ ਬਿਨਾ ਸਭ ਕੂੜ, ਗਾਲੀ ਹੋਛੀਆਂ। ਨਾਮ ਨਿਧਾਨ ਅਪਾਰ, ਭਗਤਾਂ ਮਨ ਵਸੈ। ਜਨਮ ਮਰਨ ਮੋਹ ਦੁਖ, ਸਾਧੂ ਸੰਗ ਨਸੈ ਰਹਾਉ। ਮੋਹ ਬਾਧ ਅਹੰਕਾਰ ਸਰ ਪਰ ਰੁੰਨਿਆ, ਸੁਖ ਨਾ ਪਾਇਨ ਮੂਲ ਨਾਮ ਵਿਛੁੰਨਿਆ। ਮੇਰੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਧਾਰ ਬੰਧਨ ਬੰਧਿਆ, ਨਰਕ ਸੁਰਗ ਅਵਤਾਰ ਮਾਇਆ ਧੰਧਿਆ। ਸੋਧਤ ਸੋਧਤ ਸੋਧ ਤਤ ਵਿਚਾਰਿਆ, ਨਾਮ ਬਿਨਾ ਸੁਖ ਨਾਹੇ ਸਰ ਪਰ ਹਾਰਿਆ। ਆਵਹਿ ਜਾਹਿ ਅਨੇਕ ਮਰ ਮਰ ਜਨਮਤੇ, ਬਿਨ ਬੂਝੇ ਸਭ ਵਾਦ ਜੋ ਨੀ ਭਰਮਤੇ। ਜਿਨ ਕੋ ਭੇ ਦਿਆਲ, ਤਿਨ ਸਾਧੂ ਸੰਗ ਭਇਆ। ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਹਰਿ ਕਾ ਨਾਮ, ਤਿਨੀ ਜਨੀ ਜਪ ਲਿਆ। ਖੋਜ ਹੈ ਕੋਟ ਅਸੰਖ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਨੰਤ ਕੇ, ਜਿਸ ਬੁਝਾਏ ਆਪ ਨੇੜਾ ਤਿਸ ਹੈ। ਵਿਸਰ ਨਾਹੀ ਦਾਤਾਰ, ਆਪਣਾ ਨਾਮ ਦੇਹੁ। ਗੁਣ ਗਾਵਾਂ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤ, ਨਾਨਕ ਚਾਉ ਏਹੁ। ਵਿਸਰ ਨਾਹੀ ਦਾਤਾਰ, ਆਪਣਾ ਨਾਮ ਦੇਹੁ। ਗੁਣ ਗਾਵਾਂ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤ, ਨਾਨਕ ਚਾਉ ਏਹੁ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, today's ਪਾਵਨ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਹੁਕਮਨਾਮਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ from Sachkhand Sri Harmandir Sahib is on Ang 761. Then it continues to 762. It's blessed to us by ਧੰਨ Sri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Sache Paatshah, ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਜਵੇਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ, 5th Guru Sahiban, in Suhi Rag, the Rag of love, that Rag of Prem where there is no me, that Rag of where our state of being becomes unconditional. So let's listen to what Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah Ji is saying to us today. ਸਿਮਰਤ ਬੇਦ ਪੁਰਾਣ, ਪੁਕਾਰਨ ਪੋਥੀਆਂ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, there's two different ways of looking at this pankti, and I'm going to take one approach to it which has been translated by Professor Sahib Singh. And the way Professor Sahib Singh translates this pankti is very different to the way you will see the translation come up. Professor Sahib Singh writes that Simrit, and it's something that connected within me, and that's why I chose that arth, that translation. Simrit, so here Simrit, if you look at the tatta's got a sihari as well, so it's referring to the Simritiyan. So it's talking about the scriptures, the Hindu holy scriptures. Simrit, Ved, the Vedas, the Puran, these are all different types of scriptures, Sangat Ji. So the focus isn't to go into what they are and how much of them they are, but it's just talking about, so all the scriptures, kande Simrat, Ved, Puran. And then Paatshah Ji saying, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Paatshah saying, Pukaran. Pukaran means that people are proclaiming, are saying out loud to everyone that within these texts, within these scriptures, they're saying Pukaran, Pothiyan. Pothiyan, Sangat Ji, means within these scriptures are telling us about rituals. So if we look at this now, there's many of times when our focus in this path, it's not actually to experience our true self. It's not that we've got that yearning to meet Vaheguru. But often enough that it's not to say that that's what these scriptures are filled with, but it's talking about sometimes there's people that all they are telling the world that, look, this is what you can find in these scriptures, this is what you can get, meaning that if you do this karam, if you do this ritual, then you will get this. If you are going through this type of suffering, then you can get a certain amount of food, lentils, and you can go and put it in the flowing river. Sangaji, and some people might think, oh, I can't relate to that, but it's something I can absolutely relate to. As when I was growing up, I don't know, there may be more so of my generation, and saying my generation, I'm nearly 40. So growing up, and I grew up in a household where we wasn't taught about Sikhi, wasn't taught about the path of the Guru, and that's because my parents obviously is as much as they knew as well. So what we would do is sometimes you'd go to the Gurdwara on a Sangrand, and then we'd go to the Mandir as well though. So if there's anything going not right at home, if we've got any issues, problems, and what they'd do is they'd go and find out from a Pandit as well. They'd go to the Gurdwara, take some milk on Sangrand to the Gurdwara, but they'd go and ask a Pandit as well, what can we do? So over here then the Pandit would tell you that, so basically pukaran pothiyan, pukaran, so they then pukar, meaning they proclaim, they say, look, well actually you can do this ritual. So they would give us certain things to do. They'd say, look, you gotta get this amount of, this many kilos of dal or lentils, and then you're gonna find some flowing water, flowing river, and then you're gonna pour all that into there. And so even though this might sound random actually, and I'm sure there's many of you that are actually listening to this, more so I would say my generation would be able to relate to that as growing up, because I know it wasn't just our family, it was the norm back them days growing up in England. So it's saying that Simrit Bed Pran Pukarn Pothiyan, meaning Sangaji that we could, it all comes down to what is it that's within us. So sometimes we're looking for an upa. Upa Sangaji means that we're actually searching, because we might be physically going through some form of difficulties. Somebody might have a physical ailment, somebody's got an issue, or just live with pain, fatigue, whatever it might be. IBS. I had a message the other day saying Bhai Sahib saying that I know you've suffered with a lot of IBS, which is a stomach issue. Can you give me some pointers, and how can Simran help us to overcome? So Sangaji, sometimes we're looking for those things that are gonna help us, help our pains, help this, that, or the other. And sometimes it's about, oh, I want my child to do well in the exams, so because I want them to do well in the exams, I'm gonna take this amount of milk to the Gurdwara. And Sangaji, that even though we're talking about here the Hindu scriptures, but the truth is, those that have labeled themselves to be Sikhs haven't necessarily escaped from these things, that we may be doing very similar things, and there might be people that are telling us, and our whole focus yet isn't to meet Vaheguruji. But look, there's a fine line, Sangaji, because in this fine line, as if somebody tells us to read a certain Shabad, and even though it may be for a worldly gain, remember, we might start off with doing something as an empty ritual, but there's always that possibility of that grace flowing in, when that Shabad catches us at the right time, it could alter our life in the way we look at things. So this is why I was able to relate to this translation, Sangat ji. Simrat Ved Puran Pukaran Pothiyan, but Patsha ji saying, yes, you could look into this, you could look into that, you could find out that you can get rid of this pain with that, rid of this situation with that. If you want to try and pass your exams, then you're going to do that. But no, Sangat ji Patsha is saying, look, this whole game was not about that. Because you will still continue, you will still remain in that cycle of birth and death. You won't escape from your true inner suffering. Kende but Naam bina sab kood gali hochiyan. Path saying without Naam, without the name of God, Naam bina without. Kende sab kood gali. Gali meaning all then other things, all these other rituals that we are carrying out. Path ji saying kende sab kood, they are false. Hochiyan mean they are empty without Naam. Kende Naam Nidan, Naam is the treasure, Naam Nidan, apar, that treasure that is limitless, that never comes to an end. Because what we are doing, we might do one little apar, we might do one thing that gets rid of one particular problem. And that could be a physical problem with this body. But then Sangaji, then there's another one. And then there's another one. And then the whole life becomes about, our aim of life then becomes about making this sarir arog, making this body be diseaseless. But that's not what it was about. This was all about merging back with Vaheguru. It's all about connecting with Vaheguru. Because our sarir ta pata nahi kinne appa paaye ya, eta kappade ya. We don't know. Maharaj, remember we went through the Ghodiyan di Bani. Kei vari Maharaj ne sarir no ghoda keh ditta. Kei vari pyaro sarir no kappade keh ditta. Ye ta ek kappada ya. Ye ta ek ghoda ya. Sangat ji, sometimes Maharaj refers to this body as a horse. Sometimes Maharaj refers to this body as clothing. We've changed so many. We've been riding so many different horses. And that our aim of life wasn't to become disease free where this body was concerned, but this is about connection to Vaheguruji. And I was thinking about this morning, that Pachaji is talking all about connection. And when if I'm suffering, if I'm going through a difficult time where pain is concerned, physical pain is concerned, and this morning I was contemplating what Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pachaji say to us, that Ketiyan dukh, bhookh, Sadmar, Epi Dat, Teri Datar, O giver of gifts, that even this is a gift of yours. That what is, even this is a gift of yours, what? Ketyan Dukh. So many people, Pachaji saying, Ketyan, countless of people are going through some form of dukh, pain. Ketyan Dukh, Pukh, Sangatji meaning hunger. And Ketyan Dukh Pukh Sadmar. But can we actually see this? Are we able to even make this into our gift in no matter what is going on with us? And I was thinking that, Pachaji, how can I see this as my gift? How can I see this as my gift? Because I can see this in this moment, Sangatji, and it's going to be different all the time. And this isn't the way to look at it, but this is just a way I connected with it this morning. So this wouldn't be the literal translation of it. So Sangatji, that in one way I saw this was, how could this become my gift in this moment in time? That I was advising someone not long ago on somebody that lives with a lot of chronic pain. And then recently I've been going through a lot of physical pain as well. And I thought it's easy just saying thank you, Maharaj, for this. You know, because it just becomes another ritual, doesn't it? People say you should say thank you to Maharaj. It's living in gratitude. And a few times, and I thought, no, look, I can't make this bhakti of gratitude and just another ritual. So I said, what am I actually saying thank you for? Why am I saying? So for me in this moment, I thought, oh, thank you, Maharaj, that I was giving advice to someone a few weeks ago, and now it's my opportunity to see if I can, whilst the pain is still there, instead of making my focus in getting rid of that pain, not to say that we're not going to do anything about that pain, because pain is just the body talking to us. Remember I spoke about listening yesterday towards the end of the Hukamnama, saying that we're going to listen to everything. And when our body is in distress, we've got to listen to that, because it's just telling us something. So it's not about just taking painkillers to suppress that. There's obviously something's not in line. But whilst that pain still exists, am I still able to go beyond the body, beyond the mind that may worry about the pains, what it could be, what is it, and then still connect to Vaheguru? I thought, this is my opportunity, Vaheguru, that if I'm giving advice, to see that how I embrace this situation, can now this become my gift in whilst being in pain, but still making that connection and disconnecting from knowing that the real who I am isn't actually this body. Who I am isn't actually these thoughts. I'm something beyond that. So we can make so many different types of dukh, pain, suffering, bhuk into, and I was thinking bhuk as well. Bhuk, Sangaji translates here to the hunger of desires. And I was thinking, how can, if somebody is hungry in desires, how can that become my gift? And one thing that came, Sangaji, was that if I am to acknowledge that I'm still lost in desires, and this is a form of suffering, that this is a form of dukh, isn't it? Bhuk, desiring, constantly burning in desires. I want. It's a form of suffering. But how can that become my gift? That can become our gift, Sangaji, in this way, to realize that I'm searching for something. Desiring worldly things constantly means that I'm searching for something. And from that, I can take it to be my gift, to say, Vaheguruji, that if I'm still there in a race, desiring, meaning I've still not found contentment from inside, but that desiring is telling me that there is a search inside. There's a yearning inside. There's behind that desire, it's actually, there's yearning there. I just need to look deep enough to make this into my gift and realize that my desire, me constantly desiring, is talking to me and is telling me something. Khair Sangaji, coming back to the Hukamnama, Badshah Ji saying that we could get stuck in these rituals. Something could become empty for us, even practicing gratitude and just saying thank you. You know, Maharaj is saying connection. It's all about connection. Everything else, Maharaj is saying, is empty if there's no connection. Naam nidan apar bhagtan man vasai, pachikinde bhagtan. This is plural, so it's talking about the devotees. So kanne upar bindi lake bhagtan man vasai. But inside of the minds of the bhagats, the devotees, what is it that is enshrined in them? Is the khajana, is the treasure of Naam. Because for bhagats, nothing they do is empty. everything is filled with so much love and so much devotion is in that, because for everything that there is that connection to that one, to Vaheguru Ji. That is Naam. Naam is when we connect. That tool that is given to us to connect. फिर पातशाह जी कहन लगे कहंदे जन्म मरण मोह दुख साधु संग नसै कहंदे जन्म मरण, the cycle of birth and death. So it's the ego that keeps us in the birth and death. More attachment, dukh, that suffering due to the attachment. Our suffering is due, the suffering of the mind is due to attachment, and which is non-acceptance. Attachment is, I want it this way and I want to hold on to it. Kende mo dukh sadhu sang nasa, kende, but that can all be taken away, destroyed in the company of sadhus, in the company of saints. Kende rahao, contemplate this. Mo bad ahankar, Pachaji saying, kende, in this mo, being stuck in this attachment, what will it do? It will cause bad. It will cause conflict within our mind. Bad means conflict. It will constantly cause conflict within our mind. More bad ahankar, and then ahankar Sangat-ji, that pride. Sarpar runnaya, pach, sarpar means for sure. All these things, pride, more attachment, conflict, kende, for sure, kende runnaya, it will cause you to cry. Meaning it won't give you anand, it won't give you bliss. Kende sukhna payan mool, kende, it will not at all. Mool, not, remember it means not at all. Payan, you will gain what? Sukh from that eternal happiness, that peace. More attachment will never give you peace, Padshaji is saying. Naam vichunnaya, kende, but this is what happens when we separate from Naam, when we separate from that one. Meri tar bandan bandeya, and this is one of the biggest pains, Sangat-ji, is living in that place of Meri mind. Constantly thinking this is mine. Tar bandan bandeya. We're saying that we start to say this is my personality. We are attached to our personalities and we actually claim, no, this is my personality. So we are in such an illusion. This is my body. This is my son. This is my house. E meraya, e meraya, e meraya. Sangat-ji, and that's why the more that person that remains in mind, they are still in the Traya Gun. Because even when somebody reaches the higher gun of Maya, of this whole makeup, which is Satogun. Satogun is when you become giving. Satogun is when you become compassionate. Satogun is when you're conscious about what you eat, what you speak. It's such a beautiful place to be. But in the Satogun, there's still the idea of Mera, of mine. We still acknowledge that we're still in ego. But Sangat-ji, when we go beyond that, is when there is no ego. When we don't recognize anything to be mine. Only that can be mine that I control. My own thoughts are out of control. So how can that be mine? My body is not in my control. How can it be mine? What does that mean when it's not in my control? I have not designed for the way the body works. Somebody else has. Sangat-ji, I can't say that if I cut my finger here and with a sharp instrument, and I can't then decide the outcome of what happens. If it was me that was deciding all of that, then I could say this is mine. But there's somebody else in control. There's somebody else that is behind what happens, how this body functions. So how can I call it mine? That child that we have brought into this, that has come into this world through us, that we call mine. Sangatji, if our own body isn't mine, how can we call that mine? Yes, we've got a responsibility into nurture and create a beautiful, loving, compassionate environment for them. What's the best thing we can do for our children when they are young? It's not about being desperate to teach them academically. Nowadays, people are going crazy. They're trying to teach their children mathematics whilst they are still in the womb. No, what we can do, the best thing we can do for children is the environment that we create for them. If we create an unconditional, loving, compassionate environment for that child, that's the best thing we can do to help them grow. The more we try and control them and have that expectation from them to say, I want you to be like this, I want you to do that, from such a young age, we start trying to program them in such a way. But Sangatji, let me give you an example that sometimes might not even sit well with certain people. But just to tell you how deep this is, that you could even be trying to teach your child Gurbani. And this, I'm talking about a child that is under the age of about 7 years old. 5, 6 year old, 4 year old. You're trying to teach them Gurbani. That no, you have to say it like this, you got to do it like that. And I'm not saying, obviously there's a system and there's a process to everything in life. And we've got to learn about language, how to pronounce things and how to do things. But Sangatji, behind there, if you're coming from a place of frustration, if you're coming from a place of fear, that I need them to learn this, that, say if they fall behind, but Fulana, such and such child, they already know they're panti. You're coming from that place of competition, of fear. That's the environment that you are creating. Yes, you might teach them something on an intellectual level at that point, at that time. You might be able to put, yes, how to pronounce certain letters in, and that goes into their memory. Of course, that's great. We should be doing that with my own children from literally when they were born. I would be singing Uda, Ada, Idi around them. Whenever we'd be walking, I'd sing Tar, Nas to them. That I'd be singing things like Madhu hum aise tu aisa, hum aise tu aisa, because that's the environment you're creating for them, and it's going into them. And it's a much more beautiful way of teaching them, instead of teaching them direct, saying "Aa bol, aa keh," just putting it out there in a loving way. But Sangatji, if there's frustration behind there, that's the actual environment that you are giving the child. It's frustration. It doesn't matter what you're teaching them. And the most important was the environment that we gave them. More important than what we was trying to teach them. So, coming back to what Badshaji is saying here to us, that Meri tar bandan bandaya, this whole possessiveness, Badshaji is saying that we've bound ourselves to that. We have tar, we have taken that, we've brought that inside of us. Nark Surg Avatar, continuing like this, acknowledging, thinking that this is mine. And Badshaji is saying that Nark Surg, that it'll keep us in the cycle of Avatar, take us into where? Nark, into hell and into heaven, constantly. Maya Tandaya, if we are caught up in the Tanda, in these affairs of Maya and disillusion. Sodat tat bicharya, Prabhupada is saying, what was this path about? It was about Sodat. It was about going in. It was about searching. Sodat tat vicharya. And then from that deep inner contemplation, searching and searching deeper within my own self, then I got to the essence. Then I got to the core. Sodat tat vicharya. Naam bina sukh nahe sar par harya. Pach without Naam that is given to us by our Guru to connect us to Vaheguru Ji. Without that, there is no sukh. Sukh nahe sar par harya. Sar par means for sure. For sure, harya you will lose without Naam. Without taking that Naam from our Guru that is going to connect us, Sangat Ji, to that one. Aabhe jahe anek mar janmate paach. Aabhe jahe, coming and going, anek, countless people, mar dying again and again, janmate, and then being born again, just staying in this cycle. Bin buje sab vad, will remain in all types of conflicts. Vad means conflict. Bin buje meaning without understanding who I am. Bin buje sabavad joni parmate. It'll keep us in that cycle, wondering. Jinko pe deyal, to those that Maharaji are merciful, that Vaheguru Ji is merciful upon. Tin sadhu sang peya. They will then be fortunate to have then the sangat, then to accompany sadhu, the great saints. Or we could translate that to the Guru's Bani. Amrita Harka Naam. That the name of God is full of nectar. Harka Naam Tini. Amrit Harka Naam Tini Jani Jap Leya. Pachi is saying, those that have actually meditated on the name of God, they have experienced that inside Amrit, that nectar that flows inside of them. Khoj hai kot asank bahut anant ke. There's so many that are actually there searching, looking for this Amrit, looking for this inner nectar. Khoj hai kot, millions are asank. Pachi, countless people, bahut anant ke. There is so many people that you can't even put a number to it that is searching for this nectar inside. Jis bajaye aap, but only those that actually come to understand their own self-realization of who they are. Neda tis he, only to those then Vaheguru Ji becomes close. Visr nahi datar apna naam deho. Path Ji saying, Visr nahi datar. Oh Vaheguru Ji, oh giver, don't forget me, Vaheguru Ji. Visr nahi datar apna naam deho. Give me your name, meaning give me that connection to you. Apna naam deho, gun gawa din raat, that day and night, gun gawa. I sing your praises, gun gawa din raat, nanak chao eho. That is my inner yearning, that I am constantly singing your praises, Vaheguru Ji. So, Sangat Ji, the takeaway from this Hukamnama for me is that what are we doing for that connection inside? That no matter, we can do many different types of rituals to try and gain worldly things. We can try and do many things to try and get away from physical pains. But the truth is, only that is a gift, becomes a gift for me, that helps me to connect to Vaheguru Ji. So Sangat Ji, oh, ਆਪਾਂ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਜੋਦਰੀ ਕਰੀਏ. Let's do the ਅਰਦਾਸ to Vaheguru Ji that give me your name, that ਗੁਣ ਗਾਵਾਂ ਦਿਨ ਰਾਤ. ਨਾਨਕ ਚਾਹੋ ਇਹੋ ਵਿਸਰ ਨਾਹੀਂ ਦਾਤਾਰ ਆਪਣਾ ਨਾਮ ਦੇਹੋ. Give me that naam, give me that connection to you, because once I connect to you, then I've got everything. ਸੋ ਇਤਨੀ ਇੱਕ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਨ, ਇੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਨੇਕਾਂ ਹੀ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਹਨ, ਅਣਜਾਣ ਬੱਚਾ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਬਖਸ਼ ਦੇਣਾ। ਆਓ ਗੱਜ ਵੱਜ ਕੇ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਬੁਲਾਉਣੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।